We continue part 2 with chapter 5 in Cana and Capernaum. Cana el Jalil. Having accomplished his proposed journey, we next find Jesus in Cana of Galilee. This village is not named in the Old Testament. According to Josephus, Vita 116, it lay half a day's journey from the Sea of Gennesaret and about 2 days from the Jordan. So what, 40 miles? Or what do they mean by a day's journey? Where Jesus had his interview with Nathanael, who probably accompanied him to Cana. In his researches, 3-204, Dr. Robinson establishes it as Cana el Jalil, 3.5 hours north, half an hour east from Nazareth. Here, Jesus performed his first miracle, which is thus reported in John chapter 2, verse 1 through 10. And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there, and both Jesus was called, invited, and his disciples to the marriage. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus saith unto him, They have no wine. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, what have I to do with thee? Mine hour is not yet come. His mother saith unto the servants, Whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Jesus saith unto them, Fill the water pots with water, and they filled them up to the brim. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it, when the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew. The governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and saith unto him, Every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. Now, invited being in brackets there, it can lead people towards a different interpretation. So he's called, like a bridegroom would be called, and so they're working out something different, it seems, because it doesn't say that. But how is it Jesus' mother's responsibility for any of this if she's not the mother of the bridegroom? And, well, there's parable accounts, but remember the Gospel John was based on something 4 centuries earlier about Bacchus. Even church fathers admit it. Now we have carbon dating, and it's pretty much the same thing. Cross out Bacchus and put Jesus, and 90-something%. It's the same text. Of course, the Gospel John went through some changes after that, but after the 90s when it was written, the particularity with which minutiae are mentioned renders it probable that the historian John was one of the party, that he and Andrew and Peter and Philip went forward with their new rabbi, detaching themselves from John and attaching themselves to Jesus from Bethabara on the Jordan, where the last incident is mentioned, to Cana and Galilee. There were to be parts of 3 days consumed in the journey. Jesus would pass through Nazareth by the most natural route. Perhaps there he would be told that his mother had gone to Cana, to the wedding of some familiar friend of the family, and that an invitation had been left for him, and any friend who might be with him to follow her as speedily as convenient. His friends continue with him, and they go in a body to Cana. There, an event in the life of Jesus occurs which makes this the most memorable wedding upon record, the marriage of no imperial parties has been so frequently mentioned as this of these unknown peasants of Galilee. No wedding has invoked from genius so many poems and so many passages of eloquence. Who the bride and bridegroom were, we have no means of knowing. They were simple people of the rank of Mary, and probably poor, as we learn that the wine fell short. Jesus had heretofore performed no miracle that we are expressly told by the historian John, chapter 2:11, who thus sets aside all those grotesque and monstrous things which are related of Jesus in the apocryphal books. But Mary knew his miraculous conception and the marvels attending his birth. She had watched his growth in wisdom and power, and although she had never witnessed a miracle, she had always found him a wise adviser in times of domestic emergencies. How far he had communicated to her his views of his mission, we cannot know. They must have had long conversations and deep communings about himself, and if he had never given her any hints about his messiahship, the Jewish woman had Jewish hopes in her heart. Well, perhaps like Jesus wasn't, the whole point of the prophets is they're not of the conservative religion, so Judaism wouldn't have been their faith. And she connected them with the sacred secrets of his birth and brooded over them with her maternal love. There is a great probability that the disciples who were with Jesus told her how they had come to form that brotherhood on the ground of the Baptist John's having proclaimed him as the Messiah. The Baptist was the highest authority then, so now Mary received him after his absence in the double character of Son and Messiah, and she knew that the Messiah was to work miracles. The hour seemed to have arrived. The wine failed. She spoke of Jesus very delicately, merely informing him of the fact. It was very natural. The reply of Jesus seemed unnaturally harsh. That somehow it was a reproof is obvious. That some rebuff should come, as we might, upon reflection, expect. Well, perhaps, as I said, it was his responsibility. Our knowledge of Jesus, after all, we have read, makes it natural. He would do nothing at the mere prompting of pride or vanity. And if Mary believed or suspected him to be the Messiah, she should wait until his own spirit prompted the extraordinary act. And yet the words are not as harsh as they seem in our English version. G'day, woman, is an Oriental method of salutation to women of the highest rank. And Jesus used it upon the cross in the season of his extreme suffering and when he was exhibiting in the most tender and unselfish regard for his mother. See John 19:26. And, well, it's stepping aside from the familial association, so substitute lady and see how different is the sound. Well, people can say, but lady, come on. But the fact that he chose to say my lady instead of my mother is significant. He had entered his work, and this was his first meeting with Mary after his baptism, and he seems to have made her then feel the barrier which must ever thereafter be between them. Mary was to learn what many a woman has learned, how great a life work interferes with the affections. Well, not necessarily, but it can be, something can be more appropriate, more important, right? And see also John 20, verse 15. She is to be woman to him, a very dear mother, ever to be honored, but woman. Her husband had not been his father. Well, that's the doctrine, but he knew himself now as the son of the God well, if you're going to take that literally, you have to renounce this immaculate conception stuff, because if there is a father, it's not an immaculate conception. His whole treatment hereafter, as we shall see, is on this platform. What have I to do with thee is the translation of a difficult phrase. It seems to imply that they had different positions from which to see the demands of this occasion. She had a neighbor's and a mother's feelings. He had the sentiments becoming the Messiah, the sent of God, Avatar, Rasulullah, other language translations. Sent of God is one of the most common ways to translate the phrase of what the prophetic figures are, and was to do what was necessary to make himself known in this work and no more. And no, it's not saying that they're space aliens. Perhaps the body's just a vehicle, but no, they're not space aliens. Come on. It was not an ugly, rough, unfilial speech, but it did reprove Mary and stands forever against all that superstition, which elevates her into a goddess who has power to command her son. Well, logically, if you're going to claim that Jesus is a divinity who gave him birth, we shall find that nowhere does Jesus encourage superstition. Well, survival